What's up, everybody? Matt Nuzzo. We're here at Reel, and I am super excited to talk to you about the Freedom Foil Boards Techno. So these are been highly anticipated at the shop. These are dedicated surf foil boards. They're just absolutely amazing boards, and going to give you a little background on Freedom Foil Boards, who they are, what's going on, and a little more about this board. So Freedom Foil Boards is making just foil boards, right? So they're focused on surf foil boards, but they also do make kite-specific, tow-specific, and SUP foil boards as well. And so what they're doing is come out with a shape that is not only really awesome looking, but it works amazingly well. So if you're a surfer and you've seen some of those foil boards out there, you could literally take the, like they're kind of disgusting because it looks like you just took the cabinetry off and you got like a door and you just like put some foam on the bottom and then just jigsawed it out, and like the shapes are just awful in foil boards. So until we got the Freedom boards, like most of the foil surfboards we saw were just really weird. They're like, what are these spaceships? And they do have a purpose, and a foil surfboard, does have a purpose to get you up on foil as quick as possible, but most of them just look terrible. When we saw the Freedoms online, I was like, what is that? I have to have one. Actually, I need to have some because, once you have one foil board, you can never, one's not enough. So we got the Freedoms in, been testing these for about a month and a half. Now we got a little more of stock in, got some more that are going to keep rolling through the door, and they're just really, really super sick boards. So at Freedom, what they're doing is they're working with some of the best foil surfers in the world and making shapes that are just really, really high performance. The cool thing about it, though, is that they are user-friendly, okay? So, what he's done with his shapes is he wants to make the, catching waves accessible, right? So a lot of the more performance-oriented boards for an intermediate surfer like myself just were not accessible. They're just too thin, too low volume. And, you're paddling a foil and groveling in these burgery little waves. It was just impossible to get going. So what they did at Freedom is they made a line of boards with the Techno that is totally accessible. So you can see we've got the 4.8 out here, that's 43 liters. So it's a 4'8", but it's 43 liters. And with foil surfing, volume doesn't matter once you're on foil, but length matters a ton, right? So, the longer the board, you're gonna get a little more glide out of it, but it also really inhibits the pump, okay? So pumping is your power source for foil surfing. So having a high volume board that's still short is excellent, right? So when we're going down the line, we've got the 4.5, that's what I'm holding right here, is a 4.5. This one here is 38 liters, and then we've got the 4.2 at 34 liters, and then the 3.11 at 30 liters. So these boards are quite a few liters more than any of the counterparts that we've seen on the market. And this style board to myself at 170 pounds was just kind of not accessible until I got the Freedoms. So, I started out on the 4.8 and it was just like, holy cow, this thing just like glides into waves. Like it just glides into waves and takes off so easily. Now I've worked down and used the 4.5 and the 4.2, kind of just mix up a little bit, like this one you can, now I can grovel this thing into tiny, tiny waves, and it doesn't really even have to be braking almost, and I can get up and get going on it. So, a little more about the construction is that you can see they've got this sanded finish on it, and you see underneath here is a full carbon wrap, right? So these boards are made with Marco foam 1 pound EPS blanks, so super lightweight blank. They're pure glassings doing the glass jobs, full carbon layup, so it makes them really, really stiff. They do put the vent plug in there just to let it breathe a little bit. You do not want to leave these things just baking in the sun or, sitting in the back, trunk of your car or something like that on, without a board bag or something, because they will, if you get overheated, the board can pop even with the vent plug in it. They are using the track system on it, which is really nice because you can adjust per foil. Like my Armstrong foil, I'm using at the setting like 1.5 or 2, and then the lift foil, I'm putting it all the way forward, which kind of comes up a little farther. So just jammed it all the way forward on the track. And depending on what wings you're riding, what type of foil, you can kind of adjust to that setup. So why are these boards so awesome? Not only do they look great, but they actually function and surf. They're just totally unbelievable when you ride it. So I was talking about taking off and paddling on the larger, on the 4.8, what it's like. So these things are incredibly light. So this board with traction pads on it is under 6 pounds. It's 5.9 pounds. So with no traction on it, it's about 5.5 pounds. That's crazy light. It's like a pound lighter than any of the other boards, counterparts out there. So weight really helps get on the foil and getting into the wave, just because you have it's just a lot easier to get going. The carbon layup too, being super stiff, also again, everything is translating to paddle power, and then once you're up on foil, because the full carbon is translating right to the foil. But really the takeoff with this monster double concave, it's like, holy smokes, look at that. So this really big concave with the chined rail, it basically allows the board to come unstuck. So you can see here when you're paddling, the water's just flowing through here. And basically, even on the 4-2, when I'm paddling to take off, and the board just comes unstuck. Basically, by the time I get to, when I push to pop up, I pop to my feet, I'm already on foil by the time I'm going. So it's really crazy how this board just comes unstuck. And then if, when you're pumping back out, if you touch down, it doesn't just stop. Okay, so most boards with that real flat bottom on it, it hits the water and it's like a suction cup session. You're done with your pump. This one you can touch down and glance down and pop right back up. So I've actually been pretty impressed with how that works. The chined rails I talked about a little before. Again, this just kind of keeps the rail out of the water and allows you to deflect and bounce off the water on turns. And when you turn really hard, it's going to keep that rail from coming down and hitting the water. On the tail, you can see you've got this kind of nice round tail here, and there's a ton of volume in the tail. So this volume gives you a little extra push from the wave when it pushes you. So that wave pushes, and you get all this volume gets picked up, boom, pushed out into the flats. And one of the key thing there, can't tell it here, but this board actually has kick in the tail. So it's not like a giant skateboard tail, but it's real subtle where it goes from here and it kicks up. So that kick is going to allow you to really help with that pump. So you've got, your back foot can stay connected with the back of the board as you're pumping. You've also got a nice little concave deck here, which allows you to recess and sit in the board. Some people have been steering away from the concave deck because they said the water kind of sloshes around and fills in. I am using the deck pad here. I haven't really found that as an issue. Some boards with a real heavy concave, you do feel kind of water sloshing around as you're cruising around until you kind of turn harder and it dumps out. This one, haven't really had that issue. I think they've mellowed out the concave just to make sure that water does shed off. So with the Freedom foil boards, like, who's it for? It's kind of like, that's one of the big things is like, what board do I get? When do I get it? How good do I have to be? So because these boards are super lightweight and full carbon, they do translate everything to the foil, like I was saying before. It's like, you pump, you feel it. You like put your foot off a little bit, you're gonna feel it, which is really an awesome thing once you get to a certain level. The key thing with any foil board is you want it to be easier. Bigger board, bigger sweet spot, more surface area is going to allow you to have that easier time, right? So as you're kind of going down to these little guys like 311, 4.2 or something like that, that's going to be a lot twitchier just because the amount of surface area is reduced, so everything's translated to the board. So with the board, these boards are accessible because they have foam, but it does take a little bit to get used to how responsive they are. So if you're coming off of like a big, 510 production board, which is absolutely what you should do kind of as you're starting out, is like, I kind of liken it to like the soft top. You want to kind of have like, a very easy longboard beginner board, something that is going to allow you to catch waves, learn how to paddle the foil, learn how to get going. As soon as you can go down the line and pump, go to something like this, like as soon as you get going. And you could do all this behind the boat if you don't want to go out and surf it. You can do all that training behind the boat, but once you have a little bit of skills, you can do it. And if you're a good surfer, like, any of my friends that are like really hot surfers have been able to hop on these things, as their first boards and get going. It's been kind of no issue for them. Guys like myself, intermediate or more, intermediate surfers, you're going to have a little bit more of a struggle going to this as your first board, but you will get it pretty quickly because these boards catch waves easily and the foam's right, and that's really the key thing. And thank you so much to Freedom Foil Boards for making such a sick boards, but like making them the right volume, right? So we can get out there and actually catch waves. You don't have any fun foiling if you're not catching waves. And the Freedoms will not only help you catch more waves, but when you're riding those waves, like the performance is just absolutely insane and unmatched. So they do have stock sizes, like I was saying, and then you can get custom boards, you can get custom colors, you can get custom sizes or shapes. So if you have questions about the Techno, which size is right for me, just give us a call at the shop. We've been surfing these things at Downtown. We've got a full range of them for demo that we've been riding and testing, and a lot of our staff been using them. And really freaking out like I am because these boards are just absolutely insane. So if you have questions about it and want to get a custom or figure out what size is going to be right for you, give us a call at the shop, 252-987-6000, or you can reach out online at realwatersports.com.